Morning. Hey, it is Stacy. This is Walking in My Shoes, and we are loving my veteran. Again, excuse the way I look this morning. We are getting ready to move and go paint the new house. So I look like I'm in paint. I want to say good morning to everybody. We're gonna give a few minutes here and kind of work through our morning. Because those of you people who know me know I'm slow. Have a little cup of coffee. We have something big coming up in the summer of 2021. This might be a little hint. Um, so pay attention to us and Behind the Service podcast because we have big news coming up. Just thought I'd share that when I have my coffee this morning. A few things just real quick before we get too started here. We are, as a community, are so blessed as an organization and a community, and we are watching things grow and get bigger beyond any imaginary belief that any of us had going into this. So there's some things that we're excited and we just want to share with you. And first of all, thank you because without you as our community and our friends, we could never have accomplished all that we're doing here. First and foremost, just a quick update for where we're going. We are all about loving our veteran and bringing the whole aspect together: the spouses, the partners, the family members, the veterans, so we kind of have a better understanding. And in the upcoming weeks, I'm so excited. We're bringing Cameron on board. Cameron is 16. Um, he is the child of a veteran with PTSD. And Cameron is going to be sharing his perspective and what it's like to live in a family where the father has PTSD and how he's dealt with some things, some of the things he has seen or feels. So we're bringing Cameron on board, which makes me super, 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 super excited, and we're so grateful that he's going to be part of this for all of us. So that's just something that I had to absolutely share this morning. When we're done here, y'all, go refresh your coffee and please go. It's on our Facebook page. Go click on the thing to go to our friends behind the service for coffee, conversation, and collaboration. I'll be on there at some point with our dear friends Libby and Aaron and Shauna, and um, Justin usually pops in every now and then. Sometimes Richard pops in, Cody's there. So just a great time to talk and fellowship. And that's part of being a community. So let me get started. Today's topic, obviously, is we're going to work through some more about the physical changes to the brain when you suffer from PTSD. Um, we've all heard when I started this journey with my veteran, I didn't understand, some of the things that happened, the hypervigilance, um, and I can just use Carl's words because those are the words that I relate to. I'm stuck in my head. He's super vigilant about things. His eyes are always moving. He's always scanning. He's always looking for risk assessments. Um, why he loves me unconditionally, and I know it. Sometimes I feel like there's lack of empathy. Sometimes we all feel like there's impulses that happen. Um, but those are truly due to, I didn't understand it. I thought it was like so many other spouses and family members. Good morning. I'm glad you're on the East Coast, baby, and that you can join us live this morning. Um, so we have this going on, and we all hear it and we all see it, and we're all like, why can't they just stop? Can we just have a normal day? And that's something I have prayed about and cried about, that not for me, that I would just like there to be one day that calls it total peace. One day that something is not invading his mind, one day that he can get total rest. And learning what I've learned, and talking to all the people, because we've dug through every crevice and nook and cranny to try to get some answers into this. Um, I realized then that there are actual physical changes to the brain. And maybe it was a little easier for me to understand with my background. So we're going to talk about those today. We touched on them briefly yesterday, like the parts. There is a PowerPoint presentation on our group that really kind of explains it, shows you where everything is. And it's also on our website, so you can go there. So the consequences of trauma, any trauma, combat related trauma is a little different because of the influx that happens, and there's so much that happens. So you kind of get them a little different than regular, like me, who has PTSD from EMS. Mine's a little different than his, a lot different than his actually. But what happens as a result? Remember, I talked about those cute little almond shaped things that are actually called, if I can say this right, amygdala. That's what it is, a little almond shaped thing. The amygdala is those little almond shaped things, and they're what sets our brain off in that flight, fight or flight situation, and that's what produces the hormones that kind of keep us down. Well, that part becomes hyperactive and after following traumatic events. And so what you get out of this, and I'm kind of looking at notes so I make sure that I'm not saying anything else, is they become overly aroused and they're always on high alert. Okay. Over aroused and always on high alert. That explains a lot of why they don't they get anxious about going out in public, or they get anxious about going to a new place, or why they get anxious about going to the Walmart, or why they get anxious about being in crowds, because they are hyper vigilant at that point and they're always on alert. That part of the brain just does that. So it tends to do with a lot of that stuff. Um, it makes it very hard for them to relax and sleep. Very hard for them to relax and sleep. Now, I know a lot of people will say, well, my veteran stays in bed, or he's whatever. I get that at that point they're comfortable, but they're not truly in deep sleep most of the time. They only get as far as REM, which is very exhausting. Your eyes kind of move during REM, and you're always aware of your surroundings. So while they may sleep, it may not be that deep sleep that is required for good rest. Now, I don't know about the rest of y'all, but when I don't get sleep, Stacy be crabby. So again, go back to this exhaustion that's going on with them. So even most of the time when our veterans are asleep, their brain still doesn't shut off completely. Think about how exhausting that would be for all of us. So they're always tense, even if they're sitting there. You kind of notice that at times they may be relaxed. And I'll use video games as the thing we all see. They use video games kind of. We all talk about, oh, he wants to play video games, or he's so into his game, or he's so into this. Um, a lot of times it's just a distraction, and they're still very aware of what's going on around them. But that video game that they're playing kind of relaxes them for that few minutes because they're focused on that and not so much all the influx of the world coming in. So while we get frustrated, if you just put the flipping game down, I can't tell you how many times I have a conversation and Carl's playing this game on his phone, and I'm like, really? And he is hearing every single word I'm saying and engaging, but that just kind of helps push that back. And that's the physical changes in the brain, that they're never completely calm. Um, they stay very tense. I know that when we get into a situation of change, it's gonna get Carl a little um, out of his comfort zone, for lack of better words. There's a way that he rolls his shoulders, and you just watch his arms come down, and he tenses up. So you can see the physical, if you pay attention, the physical tenseness in their body, the grasping of the hands, the tenseness that we see, that is literally caused by our little almond things being overstimulated. Okay, so those are physical changes in the brain that they have zero control of. We can't control our brain. We can control our thoughts, but not the physical stuff, the chemical stuff, the electrical impulses that go through our brain. We can't control those. We cannot control those. They happen and most of us have all been in a little fender bender kind of thing. When that happens and our heart goes up and we have that moment of, or even a wreck, we have that moment of panic. We can't control that. We can't say, oh, somebody hit my car, let me not get uptight. No, we get uptight. That we can't stop that until our hypothalamus at that time or hippocampus at that time comes in and says, hmm, let's start to calm you down. It's not as bad as you think. Let's calm you down. Theirs doesn't work like ours does. It physically doesn't work like ours does. So getting calm is harder for them because the part that makes them stressed is very active, and the part of their brain that calms them is less active. So there's a physical change in the brain that happens. Um, Small triggers can lead to reoccurrence and thoughts of the traumatic event. I can't tell you how many times we'll be watching something on TV, and for us, I just kind of let Carl pick it because I don't know where his head is. So he kind of picks and chooses what we watch together because then he's kind of in control of that. So he'll pick something to watch. And at some point in that show that he may have seen before that never bothered him, something based on what's coming into his head already will set off a trigger. And all of a sudden we go from like this Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of thing. And we hear it all the time. How can we be doing so good 1 minute and just like that, we're in a place? Because one little thing triggers that overreactive part of the brain, and they don't have the means physically in the brain to calm it down. It isn't there. It doesn't function. So again, how many times do we get in our relationship? Do we get something and we see it go on, right? And it's just something that kind of like for us makes us mad, and then we kind of get over it and move on. But for them, it takes a long time to de-escalate. That de-escalation long term, that comes from the fact that the part of the brain, good morning, Leah, the part of the brain that would calm your body down doesn't work effectively and is slow to react. And sometimes it creates what they call atrophy and doesn't work at all. Okay. And the best way to explain atrophy is if you've ever broken an arm or a leg and been in a cast for 6 months or 6 weeks, when that cast comes off, the muscles and even the size of your arm, to say you broke an arm, is smaller because you haven't used those muscles because they've been in a cast. Well, in their case, that part of the brain, because of the PTSD, doesn't work as well. So its ability shrinks. Same thing that happens there. Um, so the hippocampus, which is the part of the brain that um, in the fight or flight situation signals the rest of the hormones to kind of calm you down. But when it's not doing that, it has the memory process. Okay, so it takes everything that comes in and it takes all that stuff that comes into the to your brain every day that we all experience and creates long-term and short-term memories. Okay, and again, let me explain this because this I just fell over when I really started to get through this. Long-term memories and the creation of long-term memories happen when we sleep. So what creates us to go from a short-term memory to a long-term memory happens when we're sleeping. We just said that the little almondy things, they don't allow them to sleep into deep sleep. So long-term memories that we're experiencing with them change because they're not getting good sleep. So where we can take tragic events in our life. My dad dying was probably singly the most tragic event in my life when I was there when my dad died. So I remember the events. I remember how I felt. I remember all those things. And over time, while I still remember what was said and I still remember what was done, okay, they are less painful than the moment it happened because they're now stored in long term memory. They're not something that is short term that just keeps replaying in your head. For them, their brain, because they're not sleeping into deep sleep often, keeps the memories in that short term thing. They may have happened 6 years ago. It may be an event that happened 10 years ago. But to them, that memory is just as real today as it was the day it happened. That's why things like smells, sounds, sights, feelings, temperatures, events, that's why those things trigger and become something that they just react to like they're literally there in that moment because in their brain the way not the way they're thinking but the way their brain physically is working at this point, those long-term memories now act just like a short-term. So when something happens to us, any of us on a daily basis, and we get the memory, whether it is a happy memory, whether it is I don't know, we cut our finger or whatever, we may remember that down the road. Oh yeah, I did that at such and such a time. But the for us when it happens, we remember the pain of that event, cutting your hand, breaking your arm, whatever. We remember that. Childbirth is a great one. When I was in labor, I remembered that pain. Okay. 30 years later, I can remember the events of the delivery, but the rawness of the pain isn't there anymore. Do I remember that it hurt? Yep. But do I feel that physical pain like I did at childbirth in the few days following? No. But for them, the way the brain works now, after PTSD, those painful realness, rawness always react like a short term memory. They may be something that happened 10 years ago, but they are as real to them today as they were 10 years ago. That's how that brain works. Um, so, recurrent memories regarding that event are very real to them. Okay, that's because the hippocampus isn't working correctly. It's not helping them get those memories to long-term storage without the pain. Okay, they get very distorted negative beliefs. That is part of that hippocampus not working. So everybody's out to get me. I'm not worth anything. I can't do anything right. Those beliefs are caused because of the way the hippocampus works. It's not triggering the part that says, hello, this was a temporary thing. It happened once. We all make mistakes and move on. For them, it's a very real negative belief. It is very hard for them to see happiness down the road. It is very hard for them to see joy down the road. Where we can look at things and say, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Christmas is coming or Thanksgiving is coming. I'm going to be with my family. I'm going to be with this. In their brain, it's Christmas is coming. We got to rearrange the house. We got to get the decorations out. Now they may enjoy that moment at the short term, but they're thinking the whole big picture. Got to drag the decorations out. I'm going to have to move the furniture around. I'm going to have to deal with her putting the lights on the tree. I'm going to have to go shopping, which I don't want to do. Or she's going to be shopping and I don't like her being there because I'm afraid of whatever. So that's the difference in how our minds work. They think of all the worst case scenarios and plan them out all the time. But that's because their brain only works that way with the physical changes in the brain. I mean, all of a sudden I was like, this makes so much sense. Impulsive behaviors. Yeah. Impulsive behaviors. We get that a lot. Again, the part of the brain, and this actually happens in the frontal lobes of the brain because of the PTSD. We don't regulate impulsive behaviors. So things that we think about that um, this could be a potential risk. If you notice, most of the time our veterans are risk takers. They don't think about, some of the long-term stuff. It's live in that moment. Oh, I only live once, whatever. Those impulsive behaviors are no longer regulated like they are in somebody with a normally functioning brain because of the physical changes to the brain. It's not something they can control. It is the physical changes to the brain, impulses, things like we're having a conversation and all of a sudden it becomes, I hate you. No, they probably don't hate you. They hate what's going on in the moment and they can't communicate to us well. So at that point, hating us becomes easy, but it is because of the physical changes to the brain. They also know, and it goes from the stuff that we go through here, but we also know there are things like um, they don't register physical pain like we do. Okay, and a lot of times your veteran will say, "Oh, I'm used to it." No, they're not used to it. Their sensory for physical pain, they just don't get like we do. So there are times when we've seen this over and over and over again. There are times that that veteran may grab your arm or he may push you next to the wall, right? Which if you and I or anybody else were in a room and they were going to walk off and you kind of grab their hand and say, hey, hang on. They grab it and kind of push you there, and it's way more forceful because they don't register the physical pain and what their ability is. Okay. Now, I'm not talking about real abuse, knocking you in the face abuse, but I'm talking about they don't register that part of the brain doesn't work. They don't get it. They don't understand it because they don't realize that grabbing you on the wrist and pushing you against the wall, right? They don't get that that is causing you physical pain because if the same thing was happening to them, it wouldn't be causing them physical pain because they don't register pain the same way we do. Not using it as an excuse for physical abuse. I'm just trying to explain physically changes in the brain that work. Um, Heart rate and blood pressure. How many of our veterans with PTSD have increased blood pressure? Increased blood pressure. So, what happens when we get in that initial car wreck for normal people, and I don't mean normal like that, I mean people without PTSD, our blood pressure goes up and our heart rate goes up. They are a response to those cute little almondy things, right? The amygdala, amygdala, yeah, the almondy things. Um, they are when that happens, part of our fight or flight is to increase our heart rate, increase our blood pressure. Okay. So that part of their brain is overstimulated, remember? And the hippocampus is what sends out the rest of the hormones to start to lower that when they realize that there's not a risk there anymore. Well, theirs doesn't work like ours does, like a non-PTSD brain works. So their blood pressure's not coming down. A lot of our veterans are on blood pressure medicine. Now you understand why. Because it's a physical change in the brain. And that happens. Emotional awareness. They're not good at reading emotions. They're not good at I hear it all the time. I experience it some. Carla's very good about getting my emotions, but most of the time I have to tell him. He's great with helping me deal with my emotion, but I have to talk about it and kind of spit it out there. They don't read emotions well. Their ability to have empathy doesn't work. Okay? That comes as part of the mid anterior cortex. And we know from yesterday that doesn't work. It's slow to react. So empathy is not something they feel well. Not because they don't care, not because they don't love you, but because that part of the brain doesn't work right. So when I sat back and I started looking at, are there things that we let that this becomes a crutch for? Yes. Are there things that it becomes an excuse for? Yes. But this is truly an injury to the brain. And I haven't even gotten into TBI yet, where there is true damage to the brain. This is just people who experience PTSD and what their brain physically does. So by the end of the week, I will put the resources up that we're using so you can dig deeper into the resources yourself. But again, I just thought it was time that we became very aware. I didn't know till I started looking. Aware of the physical changes. If we had been in a car accident and suffered a traumatic brain injury, would we not be getting help and learning to rewalk or retalk or readjust or redo? And then, as good as our brain got, that would be what we functioned in. If we were doing that, why can't we? Why can't we comprehend that? Why can't we advocate for looking at ways to treat this as a brain injury instead of as a mental disorder? Those are where the realities. And I think when you understand how it happens, then it makes sense in how you can deal with it and we can deal with it together. This is a true injury. So it's just something that that we just need to think about and talk about some more. Um, he's going to be in here in a second because I really have to go because I've got to go to the new house and try to get it painted so we can be in there by the weekend. Um, but just think about that tomorrow. We're going to kind of wrap this up and talk about this will go tomorrow and Friday, but we're going to talk about treatments and what's available and how sometimes the standard treatment, we're going to talk about some of the standard treatments they use and are they affecting that part of the brain that needs to be treated, or do we need to look at and becoming advocates at some of these other avenues as well? Just some food for thought. Y'all have a great day. Don't forget in a half an hour to pop on to Behind the Service podcast, um, or Behind the Service, and go to coffee and conversation and collaboration because we be talking all kinds of stuff. Again, we have so much going on. Can't wait to share more. Stay tuned to the Facebook pages. We'll be updating the website too this week with new stuff. Please subscribe to the newsletters and sign up for the community there. I finally have figured out how to get the auto thing to go out so we can respond like we need to be. Newsletter is posted on our Facebook page, so check it out. We'll be doing one every week. Any more questions y'all have? I know that there's been some questions about the caregiver plant program, and we will provide those resources for y'all as well. So everybody have a blessed day. Have an enjoyable day. Enjoy your hump day. Let's get through this. I'm Stacy. This is Walking in My Shoes. We are Loving My Veteran, and we're glad you're part of this community. Have a great day.